As Bandura was a proponent of social learning theory, one must first know the traditional learning or behavioral theories so as to strike out the difference of idea propagated by Albert Bandura. Behavioral theorists believe that everything is learned. As individuals grow, they observe things and picks up from the environment for the various informations for the formation of their personality. Therefore, according to their view, personality is a product of environment, that is the surrounding in which the individual is growing and interacting with. So personality is shaped and reshaped by observation, by learning from the environment. However, Bandura did not deny the connection of this type of learning, but he added that such learning can be obtained by viewing other people's actions being rewarded or punished. As behavioral scientists like Skinner are of opinion that personal experiences are key to the learning, Bandura incorporated the idea of observational learning. That is, he said that learning from the society is not necessarily has to be a first-hand experience. One can also learn indirectly. That is, learning might not also be through direct contact or through personal experience. Additionally, such learning requires a mediation of cognitive functions of the individuals. He does not see individuals only as a mere product of environment, but acknowledges the individual as a self-sufficient entity having functional cognitive abilities. He recognized with behaviorist learning theory of classical conditioning and operant conditioning. He recognized both these viewpoints, but he also added two important ideas to it. The first is that the mediational processes occurring between the stimuli and response, and the second is that the behavior is learned by observation at large from the environment, that is observational learning. Now, to illustrate his idea about observational learning, he referred to the Bobo doll experiment in 1961. He conducted a series of experiments on observational learning, collectively called as Bobo doll. Here, the experimenter studied children's behavior after watching an adult model act aggressively towards Bobo doll. Here, the children learned by observing others' behaviors and the reinforcement they receive. These people exhibiting the behavior, that is, these people who are exhibiting the aggressive acts, are referred to as models. The observational learning generally follows these four steps, that is, attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. Referring to the observation of the reinforcement, the concept of vicarious learning emerged. Vicarious learning is when one observes other people's behavior, his behavior receiving positive reinforcement for certain things acted out, the observer tend to pick up that behavior to gain similar results. This can be true of any kinds, that is, if the reinforcement is of a negative kind, the person might avoid to pick up such behaviors to avoid such negative experiences. Therefore, the social cognitive theory of Bandura accounts for the interaction of environmental and cognitive elements that affect how the people learn. Thus, Bandura identifies three core concepts. The first is learning through observation. The second is the internal mental states that the individual already possess. And this brings to the third concept, that learning always does not result in change of behavior. Bandura also singled out three types of model that is very necessary in learning. One can be a live model, that is when the model is really acting out a behavior, that is when I'm watching in front of me a behavior is being acted out or done by some individual, that is a live model. Then there can be a symbolic model, that is the fictional characters like the cartoon characters that we see, or the fictional detective characters that we read who can influence us. And thirdly, the verbal instruction, that is these instructions like that descriptions or the explanations of behavior that can be done. So many of the times when we refer to as some writings of Bhagavad Gita, or say ki you should do like this as Gita says this or that, or such kind of references that we take from the book, or can we say that certain restrictions or the behavior that is commanded verbally is like a verbal model of behavior. Now these verbal instructions can be like listening to a podcast also nowadays, as podcasts are also available to you. So verbal instructions can be listening to a podcast also. Now Bandura noted the mental states that are important to learning. The mental state may also act as a reinforcement or motivation for the individual to learn. He described this as the intrinsic reinforcement as a form of internal reward system, like the pride, the satisfaction, or a sense of accomplishment that we receive when we do certain things, or when we obtain certain good deeds, or we receive certain reinforcements from outer section, or the things or when we just do we exhibit a behavior or we do a deed, and we get a sense of accomplishment from the self, from the internal self. These internal factors are the mediational agents between the learning theories and the cognitive theories. And thus Bandura's approach is rightly called the social cognitive theory, because we are connecting the social theory, that is the social learning theory, and the cognitive theories. Now coming to the third aspect, that learning always does not lead to the behavior modification, as learning is said to be complete if the new behavior is exhibited by the learner. But in social cognitive theory of Bandura, the mediational processes play their part in determining whether those behavior learned by the individual will be displayed by the individual or not. Therefore, new information can be learned without demonstrating the new behaviors. That is, learning is not if I am showing it off. Learning is like I'm taking the information, I'm retaining it. I have that information, I have that reference point, but that doesn't necessarily mean every time I'll be exhibiting that behavior. That is, whenever learning is occurring, it does not always lead to a change of behavior, a modification of behavior, or exhibiting of a new learned behavior. Bandura's social learning theory also has important implication in the field of education. He introduced the concept of self-efficacy, that is, believing in the efficacious nature of the self. This belief is rooted in the social learning theory of Bandura. The belief that I have on myself, that I can do, yes, I can and I will do. This kind of belief system is the self-efficacious belief of the individual that is deep-rooted in the social cognitive aspect of Bandura. So this is how the theory of Bandura of personality goes. I guess it's clear to you, but if you have any doubt, yes, surely we can discuss it in our next doubt clearing class. Thank you, class.